Ethan sat quietly in his seat, looking out the window of the shuttle as it flew through space. It was his first time leaving Earth, and everything felt new and strange. The stars outside seemed brighter than he had ever seen before. He was both excited and a little scared. He wondered what the planet Valora would be like, and what the people there would think of him. He was not a soldier or a leader. He was a technician, good with machines and computers, but not used to fancy events or important meetings. When his boss had asked him to join the human diplomatic team for this trip, Ethan almost said no. But he had never been to another planet, and he thought it could be an adventure. Now, sitting in the shuttle, he was not so sure. As they landed on Valora, Ethan could see large cities with tall, shining towers and wide green parks. The air looked clear and clean. The shuttle doors opened and the team stepped out. There were 6 people in the group, all wearing neat uniforms. Ethan's hands shook a little as he followed them into the welcoming area. Waiting for them was a group of tall beings with silver blue skin and bright, intelligent eyes. They wore long, colorful robes, and some had gold bands on their arms and heads. Ethan recognized the royal family of Valora from the pictures he had studied. King Daryl stood tall and proud with a warm smile. Next to him was his daughter, Princess Lyra. She was young, about Ethan's age, and had a calm, kind look on her face. Ethan tried not to stare, but he had never seen anyone quite like her before. The humans and Valorans greeted each other with bows and polite words. The translator device in Ethan's ear let him understand the Valoran language, but he was still nervous about saying anything wrong. The king welcomed them to Valora and invited them to a special ceremony in the palace. The palace was huge and beautiful, with shining walls and soft, glowing lights. Servants led the humans through wide halls filled with art and plants. Ethan kept looking around, trying to remember every detail. He was amazed by the strange but lovely music that played quietly in the background. At the ceremony, many people stood in a large hall. The king spoke about peace and friendship between Earth and Valora. Princess Lyra stood beside her father, and sometimes her eyes met Ethan's. He always looked away quickly, feeling shy and out of place. After the speeches, the guests were invited to share food and talk. Ethan was not good at making small talk, so he wandered to the side of the room, looking at a strange device on a table. It looked like a machine for translating languages, but it was old and a little broken. Ethan could not help himself. He reached out to take a closer look. Suddenly, the device made a loud noise and began to spark. Some people turned to look, and Ethan panicked. He pulled out his small toolkit and tried to fix it before anyone could get angry. He was so focused that he did not notice Princess Lyra walking over to him. She spoke softly, asking if he needed help. Ethan looked up, surprised. He tried to explain that he just wanted to help fix the device. Lyra smiled and nodded, offering him a strange-looking tool. Together they worked on the translator, talking quietly as they fixed the wires and parts inside. People began to gather around them, watching. Ethan was nervous, but he finished fixing the machine and it started working again. The king came over and thanked him for his quick thinking. The other humans smiled, but Ethan felt embarrassed for making a scene. Lyra thanked him too, saying he had helped more than he knew. A Valoran elder, dressed in deep blue, asked Ethan to join a small ceremony to show thanks for his help. Ethan did not really understand what was happening, but he followed along, trying to be polite. He was given a cup of sweet, blue liquid, and Lyra stood beside him, smiling gently. He drank and copied Lyra's simple hand gesture. The crowd clapped and Ethan smiled. Not knowing that this small act would soon change his life forever, the evening ended, and Ethan felt tired but happy that he had been useful. He did not know that his small mistake with the device and his part in the ceremony would lead to something much bigger. As he went to sleep that night in his guest room at the palace, he wondered what the next day on Valora would bring. Ethan woke up early the next morning, sunlight streaming through the tall windows of his guest room. He stretched and took a moment to remember where he was. The palace was quiet, but he could hear soft sounds from outside. Birds with bright feathers flew past his window. For a moment, he almost forgot about last night and the small ceremony with Princess Lyra. He got dressed and tried to smooth his hair. He wanted to make a good impression today, hoping he could just blend in and not stand out again. When he stepped into the hallway, a young servant greeted him politely and showed him to the breakfast room. The table was full of strange but delicious-looking food. The human team was already there, talking about the plans for the day. Ethan sat quietly at the table and listened as the leaders spoke with the king and his advisors. He was relieved when no one mentioned the accident from the night before. He hoped people had already forgotten about it. He tried a bit of everything on his plate, liking the sweetbread and fruit juice the most. After breakfast, the humans were invited to tour the palace and learn about Valoran culture. Ethan walked beside his teammates, enjoying the sights and stories. The Valoran guide spoke about the history of the palace and showed them many special rooms. Ethan felt more relaxed as the morning went on, but soon, Ethan was asked to step aside by a palace attendant. The attendant was polite but serious and led Ethan down a quiet hallway to a small meeting room. Waiting there were Princess Lyra and 3 important-looking Valoran elders. Ethan's heart started to race. He wondered if he was in trouble for fixing the translator or for touching things he shouldn't have. Lyra gave him a gentle smile, but she also looked a little nervous. The eldest Valoran spoke first, using slow, clear words so Ethan could understand. They thanked him again for his help with the translator, but then said something that made Ethan freeze. They told him the ceremony last night was not just a thank you. It was an old and important tradition. On Valora, when 2 people share the blue drink and make the hand gesture together, it means they are joined by law as life partners. In other words, Ethan and Lyra were now married. Ethan could not believe it. He felt dizzy and tried to laugh, thinking it was a joke. But Lyra explained gently that it was real. The court had seen everything, and the law was clear. The elders said the news was already spreading around Valora. Ethan felt panic rising in his chest. He apologized again and again, trying to explain that he did not know what he was doing. The elders said they understood, but the tradition could not be broken so easily. They told him both he and Lyra would have to make a statement to the people. Since this was now an important matter for both their worlds, Lyra reached out and touched Ethan's hand, telling him she would help him through this. She said she did not blame him and would try to make things as easy as possible. Ethan saw that Lyra was just as surprised as he was. She did not look angry, just a little sad and worried. The rest of the human team was called in. They looked shocked and confused as the Valoran elders explained the situation. The team leader tried to argue, but the king arrived and said the union must be respected according to Valoran law. He said the marriage could become a new symbol of peace between their peoples. Ethan felt the weight of the room pressing down on him. He was just a technician, not ready for this kind of attention. News of the event spread quickly, just like the elders had said. That afternoon, reporters and palace staff were busy everywhere. Ethan heard his name spoken in strange accents as the story reached every corner of Valora. Some people cheered, thinking it was a wonderful sign. Others were confused, and some were angry. Believing a human should not marry their princess, Ethan stayed close to Lyra, not sure what else to do. The palace gave him new clothes and showed him to a bigger, fancier room. He did not feel comfortable there, but he thanked everyone and tried to act polite. Lyra came to visit him and brought tea, trying to help him feel less alone. She told him about her favorite places in the palace and stories from her childhood. Ethan listened and tried to relax. He felt grateful that Lyra was so kind. Later that day, Ethan stood on a balcony with Lyra as they waved to a crowd below. Flashing lights from cameras blinded him, and the noise made his head hurt. Lyra squeezed his hand and whispered that it would be all right. Ethan was not sure if he believed her, but he trusted her gentle voice. He did not know what the future would bring, but he knew everything had changed. What started as one small mistake was now something much bigger than he had ever imagined. Ethan sat in his new room and tried to calm his thoughts. He kept thinking about the words he had heard that morning. He was married to Princess Lyra. It did not feel real. He had only come to fix a machine, not to become part of a royal family. Ethan paced back and forth, looking at the gold decorations and soft chairs, but none of it made him feel better. He missed his small apartment back on Earth and wished for the simple sound of the city outside his window. Soon, there was a soft knock on his door. When he opened it, he saw Lyra standing there with a worried look. She invited him to walk with her in the palace gardens. Ethan agreed, hoping fresh air might help. The gardens were full of strange plants and bright flowers. The air smelled sweet and small glowing insects danced around them. They walked in. Silence at first. Ethan did not know what to say. Lyra finally spoke. She told Ethan she never wanted to force anyone into a marriage. She said her life was already full of rules and duty, and now things had changed for her too. Ethan nodded, feeling a little better knowing that Lyra also felt lost. He told her about his life on Earth, about working with machines and his quiet days. Lyra listened closely, asking him small questions and smiling at his stories. They sat by a pond, watching fish swim just below the surface. Lyra shared her own story. She said she was trained from a young age to help her people, to study many languages, and to learn the old traditions. She had never met anyone from Earth before. She admitted she was curious and sometimes wished she could visit other worlds. Ethan looked at her and realized she was just a person like him, not just a princess in fancy clothes. He told her he was sorry for his mistake and did not want to make her life harder. Lyra shook her head and said maybe this was not a mistake, but a chance to try something new. Her gentle words helped Ethan feel a bit of hope. Later they returned to the palace, where the day was busy with visitors and messages from both planets. The human team leader, Maria, met with Ethan and told him they would do all they could to support him. She reminded him that his actions now mattered not just to himself but to many others. Ethan felt pressure but also wanted to do the right thing. That afternoon, Ethan joined Lyra and her family for a small meal. The food was bright and full of new flavors. At first, Ethan did not know what to say, but Lyra helped him by explaining which foods were safe and how to use the special tools. The king and queen watched Ethan carefully but spoke to him kindly, asking about Earth and his life there. Ethan answered their questions as best he could, trying to show respect. After the meal, Lyra's younger brother, Prince Nico, pulled Ethan aside. Nico was quick to smile and asked if Ethan wanted to see something special. He led Ethan to a hidden room full of machines and old inventions. Nico loved building things. Just like Ethan, they spent time looking at the devices. And soon Ethan was teaching Nico how to fix a small motor. For the first time since he arrived, Ethan felt comfortable. He forgot for a moment that he was a guest in a royal palace. As the sun set, Lyra found Ethan and Nico working together. She laughed softly and said it was good to see her brother happy. Lyra invited Ethan to take a walk again. As they walked, Lyra explained some of the old customs of Valora. She said their people valued honesty and helping others, and this was why the law about the marriage was so important to them. Ethan understood better now, even if he still felt unsure. Before the day ended, Ethan and Lyra stood together on a quiet balcony. Below, the city lights sparkled in the dark. Lyra thanked Ethan for being brave and for not running away, even when things were strange and hard. Ethan smiled and thanked her for her kindness. For the first time, they both felt a little less alone. They were two people caught in a strange situation, but maybe they could find a way to face it together. Ethan went to bed that night feeling tired but calmer. He still did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he no longer felt like just a stranger on a new planet. He felt like maybe, just maybe, he could find his place in this new world. Ethan woke to the sound of soft music coming from the garden outside his window. For a moment he forgot where he was, but then he remembered everything. He was in the palace on Valora. He was now married to Princess Lyra. The thought still felt strange but less scary than before. Ethan got dressed and tried to prepare for another day in this new world. When he stepped out of his room, a palace servant greeted him with a smile and told him that Princess Lyra was waiting for him in the library. Ethan followed the servant through long halls filled with sunlight and paintings of Valoran history. The library was bigger than any he had seen before. It had tall shelves filled with books and old maps and soft chairs placed by the windows. Lyra was there, waiting with 2 cups of tea. She asked Ethan to sit with her. She told him today would be busy because they would meet many important people. Some wanted to welcome them, while others wanted to see if Ethan truly belonged in the palace. Lyra admitted she was nervous too, but she promised to stay by Ethan's side. Their first meeting was with a group of royal advisors. The advisors were polite but asked many questions. They wanted to know if Ethan understood Valoran ways. They asked about his job on Earth, his family, and even what he thought about the union between humans and Valorans. Ethan answered as honestly as he could, explaining that he wanted peace and friendship between their worlds. Lyra smiled at his answers, and Ethan felt braver. After the meeting, Ethan and Lyra joined a group of palace workers for lunch in a sunny courtyard. The workers were friendly and curious about Earth. Ethan listened as Lyra told funny stories from her childhood, and soon everyone was laughing together. One worker brought Ethan a small plant as a welcome gift. He thanked her and promised to take good care of it. In the afternoon, Ethan joined Lyra for a lesson about Valoran traditions. An elder named Myra taught them about the history of the palace, the meaning of different ceremonies, and how to greet people properly. Ethan tried his best to remember every detail. Lyra practiced with him, and they both made mistakes, but they laughed and learned together. The lessons made Ethan feel closer to Lyra. He saw that she was patient and gentle, and she never made him feel bad for not knowing things. Later, Ethan was invited to help fix a problem with the palace's lighting system. Some rooms had stopped working, and the palace engineers were worried. Ethan was happy to help and quickly found the problem: a broken connector in the control box. He showed the engineers how to fix it and even made the lights work better than before. The engineers thanked him, and soon the story spread that the new royal had fixed the palace lights. Ethan felt proud. For the first time, he thought maybe he could fit in here. That evening, Ethan and Lyra attended a small dinner with her family. The king and queen talked about their hopes for peace and shared their dreams for a better future between humans and Valorans. They asked Ethan to speak about his home and his dreams. Ethan spoke simply, telling them about his life, his family, and his wish for friendship. The royal family listened closely. Lyra's mother smiled kindly and said she was glad Ethan was honest and humble. After dinner, Lyra asked Ethan to join her on a walk through the gardens. The sky was dark and full of stars. Lyra told Ethan that some people in the palace were not happy about their marriage. She warned him to be careful, but she also said they would face everything together. Ethan promised to stand by her side and do his best. Lyra smiled and touched his hand. For the first time, Ethan felt truly welcome. When Ethan went to bed that night, he thought about all that had happened. He had met new people, learned new things, and helped solve a real problem. He felt tired but happy. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but he also knew he was not alone. With Lyra beside him, Ethan began to hope that his new life on Valora could become a real home. Days passed, but not all were peaceful. Ethan soon learned that not everyone in the palace was happy about his marriage to Princess Lyra. Some of the Valoran nobles whispered behind closed doors. They did not like a human joining their royal family. They saw Ethan as an outsider, a stranger who did not belong. One day, Ethan overheard a conversation while walking in a quiet hallway. Two men spoke in low voices about plans to end the marriage. They talked about creating trouble and making Ethan look bad. Ethan felt a chill. He knew he had to be careful. He told Lyra about what he heard. She looked worried but did not show fear. Together, they decided to watch closely and try to learn who was behind the plans. Lyra said they must protect their future and the peace between their peoples. That evening, they met with a trusted guard named Kara. Kara was strong and smart, loyal to the royal family. She agreed to help them find out more. Ethan felt relief knowing he was not alone. Over the next days, Ethan, Lyra, and Kara paid attention to people's actions. They noticed strange accidents, small fires in the kitchens, broken machinery, and lost messages. It was clear someone was trying to cause chaos. Ethan used his skills to help find clues. He examined broken machines and asked questions. Lyra used her knowledge of court life to talk to servants and nobles, listening carefully to what they said. One night, Kara caught a man sneaking near the palace walls. The man dropped a small device that could start a fire. Kara stopped him and brought him to Ethan and Lara. The man refused to speak at first, but after some time, he told them about a group of nobles unhappy with the marriage. Ethan felt angry but also sad. He did not want to fight or cause pain. Lyra told them they must be careful and find a peaceful way to stop the threats. Together, they made a plan. They would gather proof of the nobles' actions and show the king. The king had the power to stop the trouble and protect the royal family. With Kara's help, they worked quietly, gathering evidence. Ethan used his technical skills to decode secret messages. Lyra met with nobles she trusted and asked for their support. Finally, they had enough proof. They went to the king and told him everything. The king listened carefully and thanked them for their courage. He promised to act swiftly to keep the palace safe. The next day, guards arrested the nobles who had caused trouble. The palace felt calmer, and people started to trust Ethan more. Some even came to speak with him and learn about Earth. Ethan and Lyra's friendship grew stronger through these hard times. They learned to rely on each other and to face challenges together. They shared hopes and fears, finding comfort in their new bond. One afternoon, Lyra invited Ethan to visit a special place in the palace, a quiet room filled with books and paintings about Valoran history. She told Ethan stories about her ancestors and the old traditions. Ethan listened with interest and began to understand the depth of Valoran culture. Ethan shared stories from Earth about his family and his work. Lyra was curious and asked many questions. They laughed and talked late into the evening. That night, as Ethan looked out at the stars from his window, he felt more at home than ever before. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but he also knew he was not alone. With Lyra by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next. One day, the palace was quiet when suddenly an alarm sounded. Ethan was working in his room when he heard loud shouts and footsteps. The palace was under attack by saboteurs. People were running and trying to find safety. Ethan felt fear, but he knew he had to help. He quickly grabbed his toolkit and ran to find Lyra. He found her near the main hall, where guards were trying to stop the attackers. Lyra looked scared but brave. Ethan held her hand and told her to stay close. The saboteurs tried to break into the control room, where the palace's systems were managed. If they succeeded, they could cause more damage and chaos. Ethan knew this was the moment to use his skills. He ran to the control room and saw that the attackers had damaged the power supply. Ethan worked fast, fixing wires and restarting machines. His hands were shaking, but he stayed focused. He managed to restore power and lock the doors, keeping the saboteurs out. The palace lights came back on, and the alarm stopped ringing. The guards quickly captured the saboteurs outside the control room. Lyra and Ethan stayed close, helping the injured and calming frightened people. The king and queen arrived and thanked Ethan for his courage and quick thinking. The palace was safe again. Thanks to Ethan, the news spread fast and many people praised him for saving the royal family and the palace. For the first time, Ethan felt real respect from the Valorans. He saw the smiles of the palace workers and heard kind words from the nobles who once doubted him. Lyra looked at Ethan with new admiration. She said she was proud to call him her partner. Ethan smiled and felt warmth in his heart. He realized that he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of this new world, and he had a place in it. After the attack, the king held a special meeting. He spoke about trust and unity between humans and Valorans. He said that Ethan and Lyra's marriage was a symbol of hope and friendship. The king invited everyone to support their union and work for peace. Ethan and Lyra spent time together, talking about their future. They planned ways to bring their peoples closer and learn from each other. They dreamed of a world where humans and Valorans could live in harmony. One afternoon, Ethan took Lyra to see a special project he was working on. It was a small machine he designed to help with communication between Earth and Valora. Lyra was amazed by Ethan's ideas and his talent. She promised to help him share the project with others. Their partnership grew stronger every day. They shared joys and challenges, learning from their differences. They became a team that many people looked up to. At night, Ethan and Lyra stood together on the palace balcony. The stars shone bright above them. Ethan felt a deep peace. He knew his life had changed forever. What had started as a small mistake had become a great adventure, one filled with love, hope, and new beginnings. The day finally came for Ethan and Lyra to speak to their peoples. The palace was filled with guests from Velora and Earth. The halls were decorated with flowers and banners. People talked quietly, waiting for the event to begin. Ethan felt nervous. As he stood beside Lyra, he looked at the crowd and saw many faces, some friendly, some doubtful. He took a deep breath and held Lyra's hand. She smiled, giving him strength. The king opened the ceremony with a speech about friendship and peace. He said that the union between Ethan and Lyra was a new beginning. It was a sign that different worlds could come together and understand each other. Then Ethan stepped forward. He spoke simply and clearly. He told the crowd about his life on Earth, about his hopes for peace, and about how much he respected Velora and its people. He thanked everyone for welcoming him and promised to do his best as part of their world. Lyra followed and spoke about trust and courage. She said that even though their marriage started by chance, it had grown into something real and strong. She hoped their story would inspire others to be open and kind to those who are different. The crowd listened quietly. Then applause began and grew louder. Some people smiled and cheered. Ethan and Lyra felt happy and proud. Their words had reached many hearts. After the ceremony, there was a celebration with music and food. Ethan tried new dishes and danced with the Veloran people. He laughed and talked with guests from both worlds. He felt like he belonged. Later, Ethan and Lyra walked together under the stars. They talked about the future they wanted to build. They dreamed of a time when humans and Velorans could live in peace and friendship for many years. Ethan looked at Lyra and knew he had found something special. What had started as a small mistake was now the most important thing in his life. He was not just married to a princess. He was part of a family and a new world. As they held hands, Ethan felt hope and love. He was ready to face the future, no matter what challenges it might bring. Together they would build a better tomorrow.